Welcome to the podcast, Creating Value in Travel and Transportation, hosted by Landry Holy, CEO and founder of Fairval. In this podcast channel, we will exchange with entrepreneurs, industry experts, financial institutions, and investors on how they contribute to creating value in various travel verticals, thanks new innovative tech solutions and financial services. So, if you have an interest in travel retailing, hospitality, urban mobility, maritime, aviation and space tech, then this podcast is for you.
Hello everyone and welcome to this new episode of our podcast, Creating Value in Travel and Transportation. Today we have with us Catalin Loan, CEO and co-founder of IQ Nautics. IQ Nautics is a maritime tech Dutch startup providing a next-generation yacht chartering management platform. Catalin, hello, great to have you here.
Hello, Landry. Thank you for having me and thank you for having us at the end of the day. It's all about the team.
You're welcome. So maybe to start, Catalin, could you tell us a bit more about your background and the background of your co-founders actually? And also I'm quite interested to know how you and your co-founders got there regarding IQ Nautics.
I think it's actually a very nice story because the co-founders are, of course, friends and former colleagues of mine. And we are quite experienced IT and telecommunication professionals. I think each and every one of us has at least 15 years of experience in their field of expertise. But we also share actually a passion for sailing and for the sea. And as you might understand, it was a very nice evolution for us actually to start a project like IQ Nautics. And I think we are one of the fortunate ones that could combine their experience with their passion. And because we are IT and telecommunication professionals, and for example, our background is pretty much in top 500 companies, and I can mention companies like Microsoft, like T-Mobile, like Oracle, even Toyota, for example. And for us, it's always, let's start from the problem, let's identify a problem and try to solve a problem. And this is how we actually started with IQ Nautics, because we identified a problem which we had during sailing. And we were sailing in these big flotillas, 10, 15 boats, and it was really problematic for us to organize, especially because some of the skippers have a different level of experience. And then in a huge flotilla, you want to go into a marina, and then you realize there is not enough berthing around. And then this is how we started and developed our first project, or our first product, which is called IQ Nautics Live Marine Traffic Application, which is an application that actually combines IES data, which is a ship tracking system, with smartphone technology that actually shows the users the real marine traffic in a certain sailing area. And that was our first product, and it's actually one of in terms of usability and in terms of UX UI, it's a more technical term. So in terms of user interface, it's one of the best interfaces in the industry, I might say. And this is not coming from us; this is coming from some of our users. So that was the beginning. And in terms of the team, I think we are really balanced in terms of our experience and expertise, because Danny and I, we are on the business side of things. For example, I've worked in corporate strategy, innovation area. I did a lot of innovation projects in digitization, productivity, automotive with Danny, for example, while Vali and Costas are on the technical side. I mean, Valentin is an extremely experienced DevOps who's doing our whole infrastructure and architecture. Costas is focused very much on the product, and we got so much good feedback from the industry regarding our product and the usability of it. Because we think that's, for us as IT guys, it's always very important that the usability is there. We solve the problem. We solve a problem. And going a little bit to the problem, there was a second point in our existence, let's say, where it clicked again. And that was, for example, in Corona times. It was the second year of Corona, where we actually went to sail again. We were chartering a yacht again, and we went to the marina, and we waited. And we knew we were experienced. We know that you have to wait a lot in the marina. You have to go to the base manager. You have to, until you get your boat, it takes a while. But during those times, actually, it was even worse. And I was talking to the base manager, and he was totally overwhelmed by the whole processes they had to go through because there were new regulations in place due to Corona stuff and so on and so forth. And it also clicked again for us and said, we had the experts, we know how to do this. And we were surprised to notice the level of manual processes these guys still have in place, despite the boom of the sector in the industry.
Right. So we'll come back to the problem point, but before doing so, so just for everyone to understand where IQ Nautics is. So you've implemented a first app, as I understood, and then came that second problem, and you started the platform project. Can you
Exactly.
just clarify a bit where you stand in terms of maturity on that project and as a company?
Yes, absolutely. So we launched the beta version of our platform. It was actually the beginning of last year. And because for us it's important to get customer feedback and also validate our product market fit from the beginning, we worked very, very intensively with 4 of our partners who actually tested the platform, used the platform in the daily operations more than others, and they provided us a lot of feedback on what to improve and what to do next and what is the need. I am confident to say that we got it, and I am confident to say that we found our product market fit. We are indeed at the moment pre-revenue with the platform, but this is going to change shortly based on the latest developments, and we are now ready to go to market in Q1 2024. So it has been a beta version that we developed very closely with our customers, partners. We call them in this case because they were really close to us in this whole trip.
Okay, very very nice. So, so let's go back to the problem then, because I think that the audience might not know what is really the challenges that the yacht chartering industry is facing today, and the yacht chartering being quite wide, and we'll talk about the market later on, your target market. So, could you just summarize, the key problems that IQ Nautics is trying to solve? And maybe again, anecdotes. I like anecdotes because they tell you more about the reality of things. If you have any more your personal, it's always quite nice. And then you can then explain us later on what IQ Nautics is providing.
Absolutely. So, talking about yacht chartering, I think it's very interesting. It's a very interesting sector of the industry, and it's actually growing. It's one of the sectors of the industry which was actually not even impacted by the great crisis in 2008, 2009. So it's steadily growing, but despite the growth, what we noticed is that they suffered from a lot of inefficiencies and limited scalability, to put it bluntly and very simple. Why? Because these guys are still relying on outdated processes which they have been using since 20, 30 years. All the processes are still email and pen and paper based. And I can give you, let's say, some simple examples from various areas of their operations. So when it comes, for example, to customer engagement and customer interaction, from the moment a customer is actually booking a yacht via different booking platform and they start engaging with with their customers, with their client, everything happens via email. They send Word documents via email. They ask for sensitive information via email, like IDs, like passports, like credit card information, which is again not scalable, especially if you have like a fleet of 50 yachts and then you have hundreds of customers and you need to wait for that answer, and you need to check check if the customer has paid. So it's extremely inefficient and not very customer friendly at the end of the day. And then the customer comes into the marina, and they need to wait. And they start and they wait and they wait and it's like, and they go and they ask the base manager what is happening, and it's a black box because the base manager is focused on preparing the yachts and so on. They need to do the paperwork and so on and so forth. It's highly inefficient from this respect. And even, for example, the technical check-in or check-out of the boat when you're taking the boat, when taking the yacht or the boat from the charter company, everything is pen and paper, and it's spending a lot of time out there. So highly inefficient and problematic to scale if you want to scale your business. And this is just one aspect of the business, the customer interaction, which is really problematic. And sometimes you're getting, for example, you're getting contracts from different customers with a different boat, and it's a lot of mix-ups. When it comes to base operations, for example, it's like during the turnaround day. This is the turnaround day is the day when customers are leaving their boats, and within 8 hours, the charter company needs to clean them, repair them, do the paperwork for the next customers. And that's also really problematic. It's a full black box. People run in a marina and they don't know exactly which status the boats are in. Customers are, as I mentioned, are coming also. So it's really inefficient during that day. And moving forward even deeper into the X-ray of the problems they have, when it comes to task management, fleet maintenance, and allocation, everything is pen and paper. So just imagine there's the magic notebook where you have to put all the repairs that you think you have to do for a boat, for a yacht. Of course, you forget about that. There's been many cases where they forgot actually to put oil in for the engine, and the customer left with the yacht without oil in the engine, and then a few miles in the sea, then you had like a huge trail of smoke behind them. So it's really problematic because this lack of centralization, let's say, and this lack of a single source of truth for them, it's really problematic in their operations. And just imagine that, for example, if you are a private boat owner and you want to give your yacht to a charter company to manage it, of course you want to know and have a full history, for example, of what has happened to your boat, all the maintenance and so on. For them, because they are doing everything pen and paper, it's very difficult to provide this. And if you have like 50, 100 yachts in your management, then you do have really an efficiency issue. And also, what it's problematic, in my opinion, it's actually impacting their bottom line a lot, is they actually have to charge the boat owners for some maintenance parts or for some repairs. And because they don't have anything centralized, they sometimes actually don't know how much they need to charge the yacht owner, which is again hugely impacting the bottom line. And they have also high fluctuations in personnel. And also another interesting thing that we noticed is that they have their inventory, for example, in different booking platforms. And they manage these platforms manually. So basically, if my yacht was booked on a certain platform, I need to go manually to another platform and book it there, so that it's not available, so that I don't have double bookings and so on. So imagine how inefficient and how difficult it is to scale such a business in these conditions. And it is a business that it's based on scale. And it's important that the number of vessels that you manage grows, so that you can actually have a more successful business. And imagine have multiple bases. You want to standardize your basis. How do you standardize your basis? An employee leaves. All the knowledge lives with the employee. You don't have a knowledge base. So it's really, for them, it's really problematic at the moment.
Very interesting, and I was smiling when you were talking about the booking challenge, because coming from a world where I've been working on platform doing that automatically, I was like, wow, this is really ancient world. But there's one thing I wanted to react on, because you mentioned a lot, and we'll talk about that on the customer target market, a lot about charters, and I suppose it's for when you don't have it's not a super yacht, but as I understand, super yacht also in your scope. And one reaction I
Indeed.
had is, despite that it's a different, priorities in terms of requirement, I have to say that when I went to analyze some of the core innovation in the super yacht chartering domain, I was very astonished to see that, for example, a company providing a digital logbook was kind of an innovation, which it's surprising. But it also outlines the fact that even in the super yacht space, I mean, we're very, very far from having leveraging at most the technology, the digital technology. So yeah, that's very interesting and very um, surprising to some extent where we stand.
Imagine for us as IT guys who have been doing innovation since so many years and working on projects from complex platform in automotive or productivity solutions. Seeing all this, it's a blue ocean for us at the moment. Yeah.
So okay, so you pretty well outlined the problems, and we feel now there is a urgent need to do something. So tell us a bit more about IQ Nautics platform, your chartering management platform. What are the key domains, functional domain it's addressing, and maybe what are the uniqueness that you see from your platform?
So I think the best way would be to explain this in the why, how, what framework.
Hmm?
So from the why, we started from the why, and that is our mission. And for example, our mission is actually to make yacht chartering more efficient, more profitable, and more sustainable via digital. So this is our why. It's a clear why. And how we do it, it's basically with the platform that I mentioned. It's in beta at the moment. It was in beta last year. It's actually our yacht charter management platform, which is basically a solution that is a software as a service platform that at its core has a business process management module. It is designed with big data in mind. It is designed with machine learning in mind. It is designed with AI in mind, yeah, which actually digitizes, automates, and orchestrates vital aspects of the yacht chartering operations. So that was the abstract part, and this is the how, yeah. But what exactly are we doing? I'm going to refer a little bit to the problem so that our audience kind of relates to it. For example, let's take customer engagement and customer management. Yeah. So as I mentioned, everything was email based, pen and papers based. Now we digitize everything, end-to-end customer interaction becomes digital. From the moment the customer has booked and you have to interact with your customer, all the contracts are becoming digital. You have a single interface where all the customer information is being stored. You can ask for information in that interface from your customer. So everything is centralized, everything is compliant, which I think it's a very important aspect because these guys are actually working with a lot of sensitive personal data. Yeah, everything is compliant and everything is centralized, and therefore the whole process and customer engagement from day one to the checkout, which is last day of the trip, it's becoming digital. And just imagine that because you're becoming digital, you can start actually building a solid CRM, and you can start do reporting, you can start doing marketing campaigns and analyze a little bit your customer base. So this is one aspect that we are digitizing and we are automating. Also, what we're doing, we enable self-service for the clients of our customers, so that it impacts the efficiency and the time that they need to engage with with clients. And this actually brings 50% reduction in engagement time with clients without impacting customer service, because actually nowadays customers do expect digital engagement channels, and self-service channels. So this is one aspect that we're working on. The second one is, as I mentioned earlier, the turnaround process. Now, the turnaround process, because we have this business process management module behind, it's actually orchestrating all the employees in a base with and eliminates a lot of redundancies when it comes to charter preparation day. And each employee knows exactly what they have to do, what is the status of each yacht, what is the order they need to start working on, and so on and so forth, which actually makes things a lot faster. So that's why we say that the check-in process is going to be optimized with at least 40 to 50%. And then we come to the task management part. Yeah, so now you have a single task management tool where you can put all the tasks that you need to let's say close and fulfill for your yachts, either in maintenance or repairing or something like this. You can plan it based on your needs. You can plan it based on the employee skills, and so on and so forth. And it's a single source of truth. And at the end of the day, for example, if you have these standards in place, if an employee leaves, it's very easy actually to bring on board a new employee and have him more efficient. And because you have a vessel history, for example, and you know exactly what you have done with each of the vessels, which repairs, which maintenance, and so on and so forth, then even the resale value of your vessels increases with at least 10%. Because always it's just like cars, yeah? If you have a full car history, then the price, it's totally different than a car that doesn't have a full car history. And it's exactly the same with yachts. So all these let's say watts, yeah, are actually impacting the bottom line of the yacht charter companies, and it enables them to scale very efficiently, yeah, without dropping the quality of the customer service level, without dropping the quality of their boats, which actually have a huge impact in terms of how their clients perceive them.
They're very, very interesting, very rich, and yeah, because you have all that data, you can, I can understand from, selling or pushing on the marketplaces the yachts down to managing the maintenance, optimizing. That's fantastic. One thing, maybe to ask you, and that relates to your original introduction. I understand that when you're chartering a yacht, you have different levels of skippers, and
Yes.
I expect that when you have very experienced, there's no problem. But when you have people who are not very experienced, or when there's a crisis on the sea, and the unexperienced skipper needs to solve the problem, and he tries to call the base, which is already very busy. I expect that your solution is also addressing that those situations, right?
Yes. So it's again in the what part. So what we are doing is that there are different ways to look at this. But what we enabled, and I mentioned a little bit the self-service part within the platform, and it's basically what we enabled. We enabled tools for the charter company and tools for the skipper actually to access relevant information when they need it, and exactly the moment they need it. Yeah, and this actually has a huge impact on the propensity to have a damage. And that is also very important for a charter company, because the charter company, if a vessel comes back with damage and they need to keep it in the marina for the next week or 2 weeks for repairs, that is lost money for them. Yeah, it's clear impact in the top line. And I think this is very important for them, and they are trying to avoid this at the moment, for example, by doing very long induction and trainings with the customer, especially if the customer is a new one. They're trying to explain how the boat works. Yeah, but we enable actually this before the customer arrives in the marina. We provide this type of information about how to operate your vessel, what are the vital components, what needs to work, and this is how it needs to work. Also, we think also is going to come as well the fleet tracking and fleet management part, where we're going to know more about what is happening on the boat, will trigger alarms. So it's going to be more of an active approach from the inside of the vessel.
That's very interesting, because I expect that a lot of people are afraid to charter a yacht, because, I mean, people have some conscience, I would say, and I think that will help even to grow the business. So coming back to the business itself, what are then your key target customers? Can you illustrate a bit more who they are, and maybe what are the key challenges they are facing, if they have different challenges as a comparison?
That is true. So we did, from our perspective, we think in customer segmentation. But maybe we should start first by explaining what is yacht chartering. So yacht chartering is actually it's actually the practice of, in layman's words, it's actually refers to the practice of renting a boat or a sailboat, a powerboat or a sailboat. Either these boats or yachts, these boats, powerboats or sail yachts, would be under 20 feet, which are really small, up to 300 super yachts, 300 feet super yachts, which are amazing. And the duration can be totally from a few hours a day to a few weeks. So this is basically what chartering refers to, in very condensed way explained. And we have to understand also which are the stakeholders in the industry, and how a little bit the industry is a little bit different than other ones. So first of all, we have professional charter companies, so entities that are doing this in a professional manner, and on the other side, we have private owners who are actually decide to charter their own boats and manage the process end to end. Either to generate some extra cash or to cover their ownership costs with the yacht. So they're kind of doing this occasionally. I think this happens a lot, for example, in Nordic countries, more than in the south, in European Nordic countries, less than in southern ones. And it's a very interesting dynamic, because for the professional entities, for example, most of them own their fleet, but they also manage yachts for private investors. So I'm a private individual. I invest in a yacht. I give it to one of these companies to manage it and rent it out for chartering, and I get my return of investment yearly. And these guys manage everything for me. Then we have these private individuals that really want to do everything by themselves. So looking a little bit from this perspective, I think for us it's important that this segmentation, we are focused on this segmentation, and we start solving problems step by step. And that's why initially we focus very much on medium to large charter companies who actually have more bases, to have more yachts, because these guys, the inefficiencies are really high for these guys. So that's our prior one in the go-to-market. Then second priority for us is going into smaller yacht charter companies, so below 10 yachts, and private owners. We call them long tail. And then we want to go in priority 3. We want to go into the super yacht segment.
All right. So I can see your platform being able to address with a sound, foundation, but still, it's quite a wide spectrum of customer targets. Is this realistic? I mean, looking at the super yachts domain, I know that some of the modules, like just the maintenance module, is highly complex. So I'm just wondering if that is realistic.
It's a matter of time, and it's a matter of prioritization. So for us, of course, we're not going to start from day one to cater to all these customer segments. As I mentioned, that's why we have all these priorities. But what I think it's important is actually to keep this in mind from now, because we have a progressive roadmap. And now, having this in mind, I have to actually outline the work that Valentin has done with the platform at this stage, because he built a platform, even though it is focusing on prior one, but the platform is so agile and flexible, yeah, that we can further build up different use cases and address the needs of different customers, irrespective of their size. So this means that we can actually manage simple processes, like a very simple process for a small boat owner, up to very complex and very specific processes that are required into the super yachts segment, for example. Yeah, and that's why we leverage the latest technologies, which I think let's say other stakeholders present in the industry are still on older stacks, and they still need to catch up with us. But I think that knowing from now exactly where the road takes us to, yeah, we can develop the right platform that will address the needs of our customers in a stage approach.
Right. So you have the technical capabilities, if I summarize well, but you're going deploying those capabilities progressively to our well-targeted customer segments. So which is great, but also that brings me to another question, which I think is a burning question for everyone. Yacht chartering, when you talk to anyone about yacht chartering, yachting in general, people say, okay, this is really for high-end or very small niche and so on. Could you tell us a bit more about the market size of your domain? I don't think that the audience realize what it represents today, actually.
That is actually a very good question, and I get this a lot, to be honest. And it's a misconception that this industry is small and niche. And I'm gonna discuss a little bit about the industry from the hard data perspective, so numbers, growth, and so on and so forth, but also from market trends and what is happening here. And so the number side, just imagine that this industry was last year, it had a market value of $37 billion. And it's actually estimated to grow by 2030 to $50 billion. So this is definitely not a niche market. And it's all, of course, we have this misconception that yacht chartering is expensive, is a luxury thing, but if you look at the different segments of bareboats, for example, it's actually extremely accessible. And because it's extremely accessible, there are two things which we estimate that are going to happen. If we look at the number of active boats and yachts on water, the estimation is by 2030 there are going to be around 50 million active boats and yachts on water. Now, looking at the trends regarding ownership, so maybe 30 years ago, everybody wanted to own their own yachts. Yeah. Nowadays, the younger generation looks more into chartering, looks more into renting, because they don't want to have the hassle of ownership. They want to enjoy the experience and not have the hassle of ownership and all these costs and effort associated with it. And at the end of the day, I can tell you, I would rather be able to charter all over the world, and I did this in Thailand, I did this in Australia, I did this in Caribbean, I did this the whole Europe. With my own boat, I would not have been able to see and sail all these nice areas. Yeah. So this is a clear trend, and we noticed also that a lot of boat manufacturers actually, yeah, most of the boats they sell, I think over 90%, especially European ones, are going into charter directly, and they kind of had these special product ranges, yeah, which are designed yacht product range, yeah, which is designed for chartering exclusively. So this is actually chartering is driving the growth. Yeah. So by looking at this, we actually estimate, and also I mentioned also the new generation. We also notice that let's say the shared economy is kicking in. Yeah. There are so many boats on water. People really want to spend time on the water. Different markets have also different specific regulations. But what we notice is that also the shared economy, it's getting more important, and as I mentioned, private owners are becoming more active. So we estimate that for us by 2030 we're going to have around 20 million boats and yachts in terms of addressable market, which they really need to be catered, and they really need to be efficient in their operations, especially when it comes to maintenance and bookings and so on and so forth. So no, I think it's actually a very big market, which is at the moment really not catered in terms of digitization. I mean, I would compare the industry, the level of digitization of the industry. I think in the super yachts, segment, things have happened in the past years, yeah. But in general, the industry has the same level of digitization as hospitality industry 30 years ago, or aviation. And I'm actually I'm very serious when I'm saying this. It's true. It's amazing if you go deeper into the topic.
No, I from what you explained, I would definitely agree on the hospitality side, because it's true that myself, I've been working on digitalizing, sorry, the hospitality market, where it used to be a market where people would book by just showing up at the hotel. Basically, that was the main channel, so that changed completely with the booking.com of the world, and we know everything is with Airbnb is also growing. And just a remark on the numbers you were mentioning about the sharing economy, where people are chartering more and more their boats on their owners. Just something to think about is an owner today, if you look at the statistic, is actually using his boat maximum 15 days. And
That's
when you
correct.
look at the cost of ownership, this is huge. So this is why, anyway, there's a trend. And also in some countries, it's not very, when you're an owner of a boat, sometimes you get more tax. So that's why people prefer to charter it, because they're less, this is coming less on their bottom line of their assets, their personal assets. So that's quite
Exactly.
interesting. But you mentioned about your potential. Yeah, sorry.
I can add something to this because I fully agree. It's just so. Just also imagine that a lot of new yachts and boats are going directly into chartering. They have an average lifespan in chartering of maybe 6 to 8 years, and then those vessels are being sold to private owners. Yeah, and these guys actually enter again into the chartering, as you mentioned, and we noticed, and in this shareable economy, we also understood, for example, that as a private owner, you have some barriers, let's say, to entry when it comes to chartering. And we discussed a lot with private boat owners who are chartering, and understood why and what are the problems they are facing. And that's why we see that in the future. That's why we say 20 million charterable yachts in 2030, is that because all these barriers to charter for private owners will get lower with time. And we are also there to do that.
Yeah, and just to close the loop, before jumping to the next question, and I just wanted your reaction on that, is, it's more question. Would you confirm that we're seeing the same trend as we see in the automobile industry, where, a boat, like a car, is an asset which lasts many, many years? It's not just, and I think in the car manufacturing industry, the car manufacturers realized that actually they were making the money only on the one-off sale, where actually all the car dealers were making lots more money on reselling, on the service of the cars.
Servicing,
And now they're moving to either leasing, but even different models of leasing, so that they keep that relation end to end, not just for one-off sale, but for 10 years off, because the technology makes those assets, more resilient. Would you agree that this trend is also coming and reinforcing actually the chartering market
yes.
growth?
I do confirm this, and it's a trend. And we noticed that this is a very interesting question, because I noticed that a lot of innovation in terms of technology, but also business models from automotive are slowly being transferred into the yachting industry. So even if we're talking about small boats or bigger yachts and so on and so forth, it's very much interesting how the transfer is being done. So yes, indeed, I can definitely confirm that, and this is for us the opportunity we see.
Right. So you mentioned about this potential of the market, which is growing, which is each year the trend, the CAGR is always better and
It's
better.
around 5%, 5.7% up to 2030,
Yeah,
for example. Talking about numbers.
And I imagine that is going to be bigger as we go along if the industry continues to grow. But just a point on then going back to IQ Nautics, the value creation, and we talked a lot about the problems we're addressing, which kind of outlines the value you create as IQ Nautics with your solution. I'm very interested to know, as if I were a potential investor, also, how the value is created, how you're making money, what's your forecast, the potential of IQ Nautics as such.
I will answer this question a little bit differently. So I would start and I would say, if you create value for your customers, money will come. And our focus is actually to create value for our customers. And as I mentioned earlier during the problem statement and the solution statement, so what we bring is actually tangible and measurable value to our clients. Yeah. It means, as I mentioned, you can measure your impact in your bottom line. You can measure your impact in your employee churn. You can measure your impact in customer service. You can measure your impact in customer service level. So we create value for our customers. And if we create value for our customers, then we definitely are able to create value for the shareholders. How do we create value for the shareholders in the what segment? So this is again why, how, what. In the what? So as I mentioned, we are a software as a service platform, and we actually have a very simple and straightforward. Our core revenue model is very simple and straightforward, and it's actually a subscription-based model. It means that we are charging per boat, per vessel, per month, and just imagine in the sense that because we talked about the market size in the previous question. So just imagine that if we charge in this model exclusively, because we do have also different revenue streams, not only that, but this is our major revenue stream, again, subscription model per vessel per month. We are confident to say that in a few years' time, we're going to reach 100 million yearly recurring revenue. And I think that from a shareholder perspective, this is a very interesting opportunity. And you'll also be amazed what it will be the profitability of it.
Right. Okay. So I'll let those a side conversation for any potential interested investors. So coming back to the market, because you mentioned the problems and that the industry is really, mainly using paper. And my question is actually the market ready for digitalization? How are you going to, get those people moved to paper to a digital solution?
I think for a startup, timing is always important. Yeah. So I think if generative AI would have come 10 years ago, it would have been really problematic to adopt, but I'm just making a small parallel. So there is timing, team, and product. Yeah. So for us, I'm very, very confident that the timing is right. And I have a few, let's say, there are a few things who are sustaining this. And we noticed, I think the super yacht industry has done a lot of steps forward in this respect, but the rest of the segment is definitely not and are not there, as I mentioned, is very similar to the hospitality aviation industry of 30 years ago. And I give you an example from the way we have been discussing with our customers and partners. Yeah, when we launched the beta, we have been discussing with potential customers, and everybody was like, very interesting, very nice. There were some who decided to work with us and provide this support and help, which I mentioned. But we noticed that 1 year after, everybody's talking to us. Everybody wants to talk to us. Everybody wants to start working with us. So it's pretty clear that all the customers understood the value and they understand the trends and what is happening. Yeah, and they understand the value. And the discussions are totally different than we had 1 year ago. There is also one aspect which I find it very interesting. We noticed that a lot of professional chartering companies, yeah, have been founded 20, 30 years ago, yeah, and now a new generation is coming in. Yeah, a new generation is coming in to manage those businesses, and the new generation, it's very much focused on digital because they understand the value it brings, yeah, and they're actually willing to shake things up and make things better because they understand, hey, I need to scale my business. They understand the old way of doing things, but they're also very much open to the new ones. Yeah, and I think this is also a very interesting aspect. Sorry, and for example, one of our customers in Croatia was like, "Oh, now I'm going to be able to see what's happening in all my bases with all my boats by sitting in bed." So that was even at this level, it's like, "Oh, this is a fantastic opportunity for me and for my business." Putting aside all these hardcore benefits that we bring, and in this respect, I would like to outline the work of Kostas, our product officer. He actually spent a lot of time with our customers during this year. So again, I outlined these 4 customers who are amazing in supporting us, and one of them, John, I have to name him because John has spent countless hours with Kostas discussing the product, discussing what we need to do, and and again, he's part of the new generation. Yeah, also very interesting to know he's part of the new generation. Yeah, and has helped us a lot. And as I mentioned, we started initially with a few customers. I always, let's say, outline these 4, but we have more than this. And now, end of last year, we have a pipeline which has around 20 yacht charter companies that want to start with us, and their fleets range from, I think the smallest one is 6 vessels, 6 yachts, up to 500 yachts. So
oh, wow.
It's been like this. It's been like a hockey stick in terms of interest, and we also understand the needs, their problems, what they need. And of course, being a bigger yacht charter companies with more bases, we understand and we can cater to those as well. Because I mentioned we have this business process management part of the platform which we can customize for them. Yeah, and Kostas has been really deep into the topic, and he really understood how the product should be developed. So in terms of traction, it was like this in the past year, and I think it was driven by these factors which I mentioned. And they're also starting to realize they cannot grow their business, and in order to have a good chartered business, you need to have more vessels, even more vessels. Yeah, always have to have your fleet as big as possible. But then if you don't digitize and optimize, yeah, then your bottom line it's always impacted. Yeah, so you want to find the right balance between, okay, what tools do I need to work, what is my opex, what is my capex as well, because they have to invest in these boats as well. Yeah, and change my processes so that actually my customer level is not impacted, and so on and so forth. So yes, huge traction in the meantime. And I think it's very interesting, and it's very exciting, to be honest, because you are in the beginning. Yeah, we are there at the beginning, which makes it very exciting, especially for people like us.
Very, very, very interesting. So, business traction, market, addressing the right problem, everything sounds to be aligned. I have just one question. When the scenery is beautiful, you usually you attract many other people to join in. So what's the competition landscape there? I mean, are we in a red ocean already, or what's your view?
I love the blue ocean strategy, so I did actually blue ocean strategy and inside. So I think at the moment the biggest competitor for us is still pen and paper, and still I'm doing this. I quote, I've been doing this like this since 20 years. This is actually our biggest competition at the moment. Is basically training these guys and educate, actually not training, educate them, on what are the benefits, and that they need to take this knowledge that they have and put it in this digital format, let's say, layman's word, in order for their business actually to boom and expand. But of course, we are not the only ones who have seen this problem, and there is competition, but at the moment there is no established player. So I would say it's a blue ocean. There are maybe another 2 startups which are addressing the same problem. The major differentiator for us, apart from the team, which I think it's more senior than the rest and has the right expertise, I think the way Valley developed the platform with the business process management core, and also with the big data and machine learning, and in the future AI, because you know exactly that in order to develop AI or machine learning, you have to have data and have usage and so on and so forth. So I think this differentiates us a lot. And what we also bring in front of our customers is basically a lot of education. So we educate our customers not only on how to use the platform, but what are the benefits and how can they expand more. And I was mentioning earlier the CRM. What can you do with a list of customers? And some of them have no idea. Nowadays,
Right.
So I think it's a blue ocean at the moment, and there are a lot of players. These 2 players are active.
Okay, so interesting, and because I suppose that in the super yacht there was already some things happening there, but as you mentioned, that a lot of the players are on old technology stacks or not recent, and your engine, agile engine for processes and AI-based technology will definitely be an advantage.
We
But
like competition.
yeah,
Competition is good.
and you're right, it's sound. But talking about competition, let's move about the question of around collaboration. So how is your platform enabling, in a way, collaboration in the ecosystem, and how can that drain more value creation?
So again, coming back a little bit to my background, so I've been doing innovation via partners in telco since a while back, and also Danny is very much focused on this one, and that's why this part of the question I think I'm going to attribute to Danny's work. And for us, we think that winning with partners is an essential part of our strategy. And I would like to mention, for example, so there are partners that are complementary in the value chain, and we are very much open to working with them. And I can give you, for example, the example of the booking platforms, and I could say MMK, now SIS. Those are the booking platforms which are mostly used by the charter companies in the south part of Europe. We see them as clear partners in this digital transformation. And we owe to them actually the first steps into educating the market, because they started a while back offering this inventory management and so on and so forth. So for us, these guys are always partners, but we go deeper into it because we have our platform, as I mentioned, is being built around flexibility, and it's fully API based. And it means that we can actually, our strategy is actually to integrate with third-party solution providers, like, for example, fleet tracking solutions. We are actually discussing at the moment with one manufacturer of a fleet tracking solution, and we take the data from the actual vessel and we integrate it within the platform, and we create more value for our customers. So yes, we are very open in terms of partnerships, which create more value for our customers, because at the end of the day, as I mentioned, if you create value for your customers, you can create value for your shareholders. And nonetheless, I'll be honest with you, I'm actually open and working also with our direct competitors, because I think at the moment we have to educate the market together, and it's going to be a win-win approach if we concentrate together into educating the market and showing the value of digitization. And I think the future will be very interesting, especially from this respect, because if you combine these different solutions and you apply our technology on top of it, it's going to be really interesting. I'm not going to mention right now more, but it's going to be really good.
No, it's interesting. So you have a kind of intelligent hub through your platform, which is connecting to various players, partners, and even to some extent, why not competitors, which I think is a very wise positioning. You mentioned then many times AI and so on, which I think everyone is kind of really looking at how some of startups are leveraging AI. Don't want to go into the AI,
Everybody's talking AI, yeah.
But I think what could be interesting is just to illustrate a couple of use cases where concrete use cases where AI is really going to be a game changer for to differentiate your solution. Of course, without disclosing too much information, because I know there's sensitive data around that, but just high level, basically.
Well, AI is here to stay, and it definitely has its applications within this industry and in our platform. And as I mentioned, the platform is being built with this in mind. And in order to have AI solutions, of course, you can integrate third-party solutions, but you need to have your own data. And maybe to explain to our audience, there is machine learning and then there is AI. Yeah, machine learning it's one step behind AI, and one simple example that I could tell you how we can leverage this is basically, I have to do my maintenance for 50 yachts. Yeah, I have this number of employees, I have this number of assets that I need to be prepared, for example, for winterizing and then preparing for the next season. And I have this number of employees with this expertise, with this type of expertise, and I'm very much influenced by some factors, whether delivery of parts and so on and so forth. And me as a fleet manager, I'm now looking from the persona of our customer. Yeah, the fleet manager. For me, it's extremely complex and problematic to put together this whole maintenance schedule or repairing schedule for the winterizing or preparation for the next season. And then here comes machine learning and AI as a tool, where actually it provides exactly the answer that the fleet manager needs in order to optimize his resources and be ready for the first day of the start of the season. And if something changes along the way, the system is capable of adapting itself automatically. So, for example, I need to clean the boat. A very simple example, yeah. And I plan in the week in second week of February, yeah. And then the weather is bad, yeah. And all my planning went down the drain. But by leveraging machine learning and AI, then everything is automatically optimized, and I have a new solution on how to manage this. This can be done also, for example, when it comes to customer engagement and customer interaction. That's a very simple use case. you have a generative AI which is engaging with your customer, understands what the customer needs. It's very much tailored to your needs and products. So he knows, hey, I want to see my contracts. Where do I leave? From which marina do I need to leave? So all the customer engagements could be done via generative AI. All the inductions could be done via generative AI. All the all the CRM campaigns that I can do, all the can be done by generative AI. So it's the use cases are there. For us, I think it's very important that we identify use cases that create value for them. Yeah, not come with rocket science when the rocket science there is no need for a rocket science. Yeah, it's just like do not come with a Tesla car if you don't have infrastructure to charge your Tesla. Yeah. So we take it slow. We identify, and the first use case that I've given you, it's one of the most important ones for them.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting, and I think it's just one remark, because I know that in the audience there's some people who are really expert in the domain. So in the use case you mentioned, it's true that you could think of what we call operational research, which is optimizing a process. But here the catch is you actually optimizing based on data that you've collected, that depending on the situation, because that things have happened this way, the algorithm is actually not just optimized on generic data, but really on identifying some patterns, which is where the AI comes into play. So that's
learning.
Yeah, definitely. So
it could be, I can give you another example, is predictive maintenance. Yeah. So the algorithm is learning. For example, I'm not going to name a boat manufacturer because I don't want, so they're all good. Yeah. But you notice that, for example, a certain boat has a problem with a certain part of it. Yeah. Or you have to change the oil much faster and so on. And then the whole algorithm is learning from this, and it's kind of, you have a predictive maintenance schedule. Yeah. And then you say, oh, I need to order this part. So everything becomes much more efficient and much more simpler in terms of operations, even though you have maybe a huge fleet. Yeah. And even though maybe we have different bases. And so the use cases are there, and we're prepared for them.
Actually, you become a kind of even a recommendation engine for manufacturers, because you have all the usage data of your engine. You know exactly how people use it and what came out. So, and you know what? This is exactly what's happening in the airline industry. I mean, companies like Airbus and so on, they know well their planes, but the one who knows really well the planes are actually the airline operators, because they know how.
The one who uses it, yeah.
Exactly. So that's why they're really interested to get as much data from the operators, the airlines themselves. So that's quite clever, and that really brings a lot of value on the platform. But just we're almost coming to an end, but I have just two more questions, and I didn't want to leave that interview without talking about one key value that everyone talks about, which is around sustainability. I don't want to do any greenwashing, but yachting, apart from the sailing, but even though when you're sailing in wrong places, but motor yachts, this is not the best image we give about an activity around sustainability. How is IQ Nautics contributing to the blue ocean goals, basically?
Again, with data. So we start from the data, and then we build upon that on use cases. Yeah. So I started explaining you that our first product was the live marine traffic application. Yeah. So it shows the marine traffic and so on and so forth. And that's just the first step in our journey towards a more sustainable environmental yachting. And just imagine that based on the data you have, and actually putting together information regarding, what are marine reservations where I'm not allowed to go, or where there is problematic to anchor because I'm destroying reef. So you're starting going and applying machine learning and AI. You start doing blue routing. Yeah. So we say, I would like to have, because we also know, by the way, we also noticed that the younger generation is much more attuned to the environmental needs. Yeah. And basically they would say, I would rather go and enjoy sailing and yachting without actually destroying the environment. So I would like to have a tool that tells me exactly what I need to go, so that I limit my impact on the environment. And this, with the data that we have and the algorithms, we can actually provide this blue routing. Of course, if we look at the maintenance part of the yachts, absolutely, because if you have a well-maintained yacht, then the damage that you're gonna the impact on the environment is much lower. So no oil leaks, no problems with this. And I think these maintenance protocols, these enhanced maintenance protocols that you can use within the platform, prolong the life of the lifespan of the yacht. You can recommend sustainable repairs. You can recommend upgrades at the end of the day, and so on. And what I also think is that blue scoring is also very important, and important for the clients of our customers. I think clients of our customers, we notice that the young generation buying decision is based on the environmental impact. So we look at the whole range of the industries and say, I'm buying my clothes from this manufacturer because it's eco-friendly and so on. And I'm buying my Tesla is a very good example. Electric cars are a good example. And I think that this blue scoring approach also for our customers, who are really also conscious about this, because they don't want to destroy, let's say, the environment that is generating their business. So we want to create this blue scoring that goes either in the charter, from the charter perspective, but also from the skipper perspective. So both can start this blue scoring. And of course, the final one is the blue partnerships. It's pretty clear, because everybody's talking about electric yachts at the moment. Everybody's talking about hydrogen-based boats and so on. And I'm giving you another very simple example, which is related to the blue routing part. The problem with electric boats at the moment is that the batteries are really heavy, and you really have to plan your trip accordingly, and to know exactly how much energy you have available, which is a little bit more difficult than with the automotive, because with a car you don't have to face so many parameters that you need to calculate. Because with a boat, for example, you have waves, you have wind, you have tidal streams that impact your speed and how much time and how much energy you need to spend in order to reach from A to B. And by having this smart routing algorithm and integrating all this data, actually, we can, as I mentioned, we can turn back the information to the manufacturers, and become more sustainable and help them become more sustainable.
Great. Very interesting, a very exciting journey. But unfortunately, we're reaching the end of the podcast, and I'd like to close with a final question, which is just tell us, Catalin, paint us basically what's planned for the upcoming year. What's the big milestones that you're aiming?
So, as I mentioned, last year we found our product market fit, which I think is very important. We have a very, very interesting pipeline of new customers, and we're discussing intensively with them. So that's why we focus this year on go-to-market, and we always focus on enhancing the platform as much as possible. That's at the moment, immediate enhancements are a must for us. And as I mentioned, Kostas and Vali are working on this constantly, while Danny and I are working on the business side. I think it's going to be a very exciting year. And I think we're going to have very interesting launches by the end of the year, which bring true innovation in the industry. Stay tuned, follow us, and it's going to be really exciting.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that really interesting information. I think a lot of people did not realize, what was behind your chartering businesses and the digitization or digital transformation trends that you are advocating and acting on, committing to deliver. Thank you so much, Catalin. Bon vent, as we would say in French in sailing, and wishing you all the best. And thank you again for all the audience who have listened to this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you as well very much. Myself, but also in the name of the team, we thank you for helping us present our innovation, and looking forward to catching up again.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you for watching or listening to the podcast, Creating Value in Travel and Transportation, from Fairval. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to it. We welcome your support, feedback, and suggestions, and we hope to see you at the next podcast. Fairval, Creating Value in Travel and Transportation.